day ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the amazingly factual faction overview of the Nighthaunt. So do you want to spread fear all over the mortal realms? Are you good at ignoring people on WhatsApp? Do you have a thing for stupid sexy ghosts? Is poetic justice the best kind of justice? And are you terribly lazy with your Halloween costume? Great, then stick around and I'll tell you all you need to know about the spooky boys. Starting off with our history, for which we have to go back all the way to the 2021 Ruination event. The Necroquake. So what happened is that at the start of the Mortal Realms, Sigmar and Nagash made a deal. Nagash would get his own realm, and he would be allowed
to feed on the last breath of every one of you fuckers.
In turn, he would help the rest of the Pantheon fight Archaon and his armada of incel chaos worshippers. They got relationship issues however when Sigmar started to keep the best souls for himself to make the Sigmarines. On top of this, Sigmar and the Azorites also fled back to Azir and left the rest of the factions to the mercy of the Chaos Gods. And well, spoiler alert, they got completely curb stomped. The entire mortal realms became a massive hellscape ruled by chaos. And Nagash? Well, he too got resigned to a permanent dirt nap after Archaon, ironically enough, killed the god of death. Luckily for him, his Mortarchs managed to steal his corpse and at least one of them had brought Revivify. Nagash, who has always been known as a mild voice of reason, then naturally decided that killing every being in the mortal realms would be an appropriate response. Long story short, he created the Black Pyramid to kill and reanimate everyone in the universe. Meddling Redman caused it to explode, and this resulted in the Necroquake, which caused unclaimed spirits from all over the realms to appear as malevolent sheetheads. These were already quite dangerous, but not exactly the cohesive genocide force required for Nagash's plans. And well, for that we're gonna have to move on to the named character section, because the solution came in the form of Lady Ollander, a psychopathic gold digger who rubbed Bone Daddy the wrong way. Ollander in life was a woman who would seduce, marry and then murder powerful kings and noblemen. She would then inherit all their power, and by making an elaborate show of fake grief, she was never suspected. Nagash did know however, and as a form of poetic justice, Nagash turned her soul into the Mortarch of Grief, a leader for the Nighthaunt who constantly feels every single negative emotion in the mortal realms. Already in life, Ollander was very cunning and never shied away from extreme methods. This combined with her cruelty and general greed for power made her an excellent leader for the Nighthaunt forces. Meanwhile, the pain makes for an excellent motivator that Ollander can actually use as an emo superpower. If she lifts her veil, mortals nearby will literally drop dead, and she is so bloody sad that plants around her become depressed and start to wither. The only thing edgy enough to grow in her presence is a Shaishan Thorny Briar, a plant coveted by florists all over the realms for its impressive ability to cut itself. Jokes aside, this is also great from a military perspective, as the Nighthaunt are fueled by sadness and fear, so they can actually use Ollander like a portable power plant. Okay, great, so we got a power battery with spidery manipulation skills, but she has never led an army, so what about military intelligence? Well, for that Nagash made the Craven King. The guy used to be a ruthless warlord that committed all sorts of nastiness to get power for himself. Nagash basically turned him into that annoying fairy from Legend of Zelda, as he is forced to accompany Ollander and provide her with military advice. Oh yeah, and he also married the two, which is pretty hilarious if you consider that Ollander is a misandrist who murdered all her husbands, while the Craven King always wanted to be a solo ruler. Both hate their position, each other, and life in general, which amuses the old Elder Bones to no end. There's a couple more named characters, but for that I recommend you watch my armory video, as it already covers those, while also covering all the individual ghost types that make up the army. Talking about the army, let's look at their battlefield tactics. In short, the Nighthaunt are shock troops specialized in psychological warfare. Nighthaunt are all about fear and despair. They're attracted by it, feed of it, and most of all are really good at causing it. Because when you are fighting Nighthaunt, the rules of war completely change, especially in an urban environment. Nowhere is safe. They can come through the walls, the roof, hell even the floor could be a spawning stabby sheet all of a sudden. They don't need light to see, armor is basically useless, and defensive structures are a joke to them. The only plus is that you can actually fight their bullshit by using even more bullshit. Because for all their gimmicks, the Nighthaunt have one glaring weakness, and that is their own weakness to psychological warfare. It's just like Pokemon. You gotta beat the ghost types at their own game. A normal sword will pass right through a Nighthaunt, but if the wielder has enough faith or hope that it will hit, then it will hit! In which case the Nighthaunt actually stop being so scary, as they are easier to hack apart than a flat earth essay. Same goes for armor, defensive structures, arrows and everything. As long as there's enough faith, hope and conviction, they will work and turn the Nighthaunt's biggest strength against them. Okay, so that's their war tactics, but what do they do off the battlefield, you might wonder? Do they have cities, homes, hobbies? Well, yes actually, and that ties into their special nature. Deep within Shyish, there's a ghost town called Bathelloren, which was Ollander's seat of power before her death. Nowadays, however, only the dead walk its halls, and it has become Ollander's personal propaganda office. Here, Ollander researches the best ways to sow fear and paranoia amongst the various populations of the mortal realms, inventing new prophecies of doom for their free cities, and posting Twitter posts explaining why the Great Plan is a hoax. The scripters of death work here as well. These guys spend all their time writing grand stories about the victories and successes of Nagash to make sure everyone cowers before him. Because how more overpowered they seem, the easier it is for the spooks to terrify their enemies. The rest of the Nighthaunt, however, are almost like a force of nature. Many ghosts are barely sentient, and thus with only a couple of exceptions, they just go from battle to battle looking to feed off the fear of their next target. So then for our final section, recommended reading. Now for the Nighthaunt, you have two options basically. The best option in my opinion is Soul Wars by Josh Reynolds. This follows the siege of Glimpseforge, and since half of the book is told from the perspective of the Nighthaunt characters, you get a really good idea of what they're like. It's also a rather entertaining novel and shows some cool places in Shyish. It doesn't involve many named Nighthaunt however, for that you'll have to read Lady of Sorrows by C.L. Werner. Now this one features a bit of Lady Ollander, but it's also quite boring. So I'd only pick this one if you're truly dead set on reading about the ectomommy. Anyways, that was all I got for you in regards to the Nighthaunt. So have a nice evening, and don't forget your nightly prayers to Nagash.